Level up your future. Navigating gaming, Metaverse, and Web3 with the Prophet.
There he is, Paul the Prophet, the CEO of Holodeck Ventures. Paul the Prophet in the house. Bring your energy. Paul's going to give you his. Enjoy, everyone.
Guys, I just want to say, before any of you stand up and leave, you heard someone before say this was going to be, that their talk was going to be the best part of the day or the best keynote of the day. I can tell you for certain that being here is the smartest choice you'll make today, because I think nothing is going to have a bigger impact than gaming. And when I say gaming, let's just be clear. I'm not talking about gambling in any way. I'm talking about video games, PlayStation, Nintendo. That's the kind of gaming that I'm going to be talking about. And I firmly believe, in fact, my entire thesis as an investor is built around this idea that the future is fun. So we're going to talk about fun today. Now, so I have a bit of credibility. Who am I? Most people know me as the Prophet. It's a brand that came about as I hosted what was the biggest gaming podcast in the world, about 400 episodes, millions of people tuned in every week. Now I host a show on CNBC Arabia called Game Changers, where I talk about the gaming industry. But I've spent the last 20, 25 years of my career building tech startups, investing in tech startups, and most recently pivoted everything I was doing to gaming. So I built about $8 billion and funded about $8 billion worth of tech startups in my career. I also founded what was one of the fastest growing companies in Canada. Now, I have a question. I'll start with a question. Does anyone know what was the most preferred form of entertainment last year? Yell it out. It's gaming. Wasn't movies, wasn't music, wasn't TV, it wasn't any of these things. It was actually gaming. And I think for a lot of people that's a little bit of a surprise. Now, you should take pause for a second, because when we think about entertainment, when we think about fun, video games isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind. But I can tell you, the gaming industry, what we call immersive entertainment, is at least 5 times the size of the film industry. So we're not even talking about numbers that are close. We're talking about almost an order of magnitude larger. So something is happening, right? Gaming is starting to dominate people's time and attention. More people watch video games, not play video games, than Netflix, ESPN, Hulu, and HBO combined. That's just people watching others playing video games, not even playing themselves. And gaming as an industry, video games, on a path to reach 210 billion over the next 3 years. So there's this change that's happening. There's this revolution that's taking place. And what's bringing that about fundamentally is technology, obviously. Technology brings about all revolutions. And what's happening in technology is we're getting to the point of something called the uncanny valley. And it's a word coined by philosophers and scientists. Essentially what it means is that technology is getting to the point where our brains can't differentiate between what's real and what's virtual anymore. We're getting to the point where the graphics are so immersive, the technology's so good, that our brains just can't differentiate between the two. And so this is what's going to power this gaming revolution, this idea that at some point we're all going to be plugged into these virtual worlds. Now, if you have kids, who has kids in the audience? Raise your hand. Do they game? Your kids will probably spend 10 years of their life plugged into some kind of virtual world, some kind of metaverse, game world. Could be World of Warcraft or Roblox, just as much as it could be Sandbox or Decentraland, but it's going to be some kind of virtual world. When I talk about the future, though, I like to talk about something called the holodeck. Does anyone know what the holodeck is? Raise your hand high. Be proud if you actually know what this is. My favorite person in the room so far. It's only hardcore Star Trek nerds who get this reference, but I believe in it so much, I named my company after it. And the holodeck, just for those who didn't watch Star Trek in the 90s, was a room on the starship, okay? And you could go into this room and you could tell the computer anything you wanted. So you could say, I want to go skiing in the Alps. And all of a sudden the holodeck would turn into snow under your feet. You feel you're high up, the air is cold, you have skis. The holodeck could become anything you wanted. You could say, I want to be Sherlock Holmes in one of his novels. And all of a sudden now you're in a seedy bar and you're interacting with AI characters. But to you, again, to your brain, you've left this bare room and you've gone into a totally immersive virtual world. And I believe at my core, in fact, I'm betting almost all of my money on this, all of my investments, my entire thesis, that eventually human beings are going to figure out how to build holodecks. And that this will be more transformative than just about any other technology we've ever seen. The amount of disruption it will bring to all kinds of industries. Now, the pushback I get is, well, this is Star Trek, this is science fiction, it's years away, maybe decades away, we'll all be dead before holodecks arrive. I can tell you as someone investing in these technologies, that's not true. You know, we can argue, is it 10 years or is it 20 years or is it 15? But the reality is holodecks are going to happen in all of our lifetimes. We are going to live in an era of holodecks. And there are companies working on these technologies to engage all of your senses, smell, taste, touch, in these rooms. In fact, just recently, some of you may have seen this, right? Disney announced that they had built this hollow tile technology, essentially to allow for movement. So you could be standing in one place but run at full speed or walk in any direction you want. This is the beginning. These are the building blocks of holodecks. And in fact, even the articles are starting to use the word holodeck, despite the fact that it's not a term that's that well known. So I believe gaming is not only the future of fun, but the future of media, of entertainment, of sports, right? If you buy my holodeck thesis, if you believe that we can have holodecks at some point in the near future, the impact on all kinds of things, not just entertainment, is going to be massive. And I'm going to talk about this in a second. But before I get there, let me address the elephant in the room. You've all been lied to. And I'll say so-called experts, because I do probably 100 speaking engagements like this a year. I spend a lot of time talking about the future, but I think people are spreading lies. If we define gaming as the creation of virtual worlds, then metaverse and gaming are no different. These are the same thing. Gaming is metaverse, metaverse is gaming. We should not be addressing these two phenomena separately. They're not different in any way. And the opportunity in metaverse and Web3, I think, has been bastardized. It's been cryptofied. When in reality, at its core, it should be fun, it should be gaming. It shouldn't be crappy 3D versions of websites, NFTs and tokens that no one wants, a piece of land or a building on a metaverse that no one goes to, and Web3 games that aren't any fun. And I believe this because fun is the killer app. Remember, I started my talk. The future is fun. I believe this. I trademarked that phrase. I believe it so thoroughly. And fun is the only thing that drives people to do something. It's very core to who we are as humans. It's a powerful motivator. We often do things because they're fun. Fun's a powerful drug. We get that high if something's fun. It's accessible. Anyone can feel fun. Anyone can have fun. This is not limited only to the very rich or only to the very poor. It's perfectly accessible. And fun is the trend line. If you guys were on this stage or in the audience today, we heard, I don't know, half a dozen panels about AI taking all our jobs, AI doing everything for us. If you actually look at work and leisure time, work versus leisure time in the history of humanity, this is the most consistent trend line of any other trend line. And what's been happening over the last 20,000 years is work has decreased, leisure time has increased. Machines do more, AI does more, and so we have more and more time for fun. Again, if you buy that, if you believe that trend line, and that trend line will continue with AI, where would you want to be investing your time, your career, your efforts, your resources? It should be on fun, not on work. Work's going away. Fun is what's growing. Fun is the growth engine. And this is why I think fun makes gaming the most important industry on the planet. And I believe will be the biggest industry on the planet, by far. So why should you care about any of this? Well, gaming is going to have an impact on everything. I'll take questions at the end, but we can talk about specific industries and how they're impacted. It's going to represent a huge wealth creation and career opportunity. And I think gamers are an underserved audience. Even in the iGaming world or the gambling world, we've seen, just recently even, right? We've seen Stake sponsor gamers, bring them over from Twitch to Kick, because they know gamers, people who watch gamers, are more likely to gamble. People who watch gamers are more likely to play online casino and online slots. So we're seeing gamers being used as a marketing target and a very lucrative one. Now, I talked about attention shifting. I think it's also why you should care, because you want to follow those eyeballs, you want to follow those dollars. 1 billion people are going to be plugged into these game worlds within the next 10 years. Your children, like I said, will spend 10 years of their life plugged in, and 3 billion people are already gamers. Raise your hand if you self-identify as a gamer. If you've played Candy Crush on your phone, you're a gamer. Half the room, a third of the room. The rest of you have never played a game in your life? Never a Nintendo, never a Fruit Ninja. Okay. About half the population globally, well, a little bit less, but a third of the population globally all self-identify as gamers. And it's gotten mainstream. You can take a picture of this if you want, but it's actually much more even than you think. It's not just teenage boys in their basement. It's about half women. It's obviously trends younger, but you get a lot of people in their 30s who are gamers, parents who are gamers. So it's a phenomenon that has gone mainstream. Just look at the YouTube statistics. 100 billion hours of gaming content watched. It's the most popular category on YouTube. This is what I call gaming dominance. Gaming influencers, #1 type of influencer in the world. This was a YouGov study that my company commissioned. And then I talked about mass disruption. Just some of the industries that will be touched. Education, because we learn through play. We learn through fun. It's hardwired us into as kids. Retail, in terms of making retail experiences gamified, making the experience richer and better for the customer. Healthcare, how do you get kids to exercise more? Well, give them a VR headset. They think they're playing a game. In reality, they're actually working out. Industrial, travel and tourism, all of these. Banking. Why is banking so boring? Why are finance companies so boring? Money is fun. Making money is fun. Having money is fun. Why is banking so boring? All of these things can be gamified. All of these things can be made more fun. Now, if we talk about the Middle East specifically, I think there are some interesting trends here. I won't go too much into detail. Obviously, you have a lot of governments committing long-term to the sector. So they're either investing directly or they're supporting companies through subsidies. Saudi Arabia is putting $38 billion into video games. Abu Dhabi has a program for subsidies. Dubai today has a program, what they call a working committee for their gaming and esports program. And all of this is just happening in the last few years. So we're going to see this explosion of gaming growth regionally as well. Now, what's interesting is on the streaming side, on the content creation side, MENA actually leads the world in growth. You would think, oh, China, the audiences are huge. Yes, in Asia, the audiences are large, but we're growing from a watching gaming perspective in this region about 3 times faster than in Asia. So there's a huge content creation opportunity around gaming as well. Now, in summary, hopefully I convinced you of all of these things, but that the future is fun, that gaming's the fastest growing form of entertainment. It's on track to surpass all others. It's going to be massively disruptive. And that we're just in the early stages, so you haven't missed anything. The inflection point hasn't even happened yet. We're just starting now to get 30-somethings who grew up with gaming and have money to spend now. So we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of how big this industry gets. We're talking about tens of trillions, not billions. And this is why I believe the future is fun. So feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Watch my show on CNBC Arabia where we talk about the gaming industry from a business perspective. Thank you so much. I left some time for questions. So anyone have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Paul, the prophet? Do we have any questions out there? It's a new idea to them. Everyone's like, questions? We weren't allowed to do questions earlier.
I should have brought books to give away or something like that, some sort of giveaway to incent people. But no questions, that's perfectly fine.
Well, if you do have any questions, we do have one question here.
I'll
run down. Here you go.
Star Trek fan.
So you were saying that essentially gaming is the metaverse and metaverse is gaming, but one could argue that generally being online is gaming in and of itself. So when it comes to the holodeck, how far do you think we need to come from just the regular AR, VR tech that we have right now to truly having physical immersive technology to be at that level?
Really good question. When I work with a lot of governments in the region and a lot of ministries, so like I work with Dubai Healthcare and I work with Dubai Police, and one of the things I do when I talk about gaming the first time is I actually bring in a consumer VR headset, and I was actually an early investor in Oculus. I was actually in the first round in Oculus, which was acquired by Meta, and I bring in a consumer VR headset, $300 headset, and I put it on these ministers, these business people, and I make them do something called walking the plank. And it's an experience in VR where you get into an elevator in the VR headset, in the virtual world. The elevator starts to go up, so you see floors passing you. And then the elevator doors open, and when it opens, there's a long wooden plank, like high above the ground, that you have to sort of navigate. And what I love about it is you get these very sophisticated ministers, doctors, scientists, business people who know when they put on the headset, they were on solid ground. And as soon as they start walking the plank, they're all, they're terrified, they're yelling, they're like, our brains are easily fooled. So I think we're much closer than people think. We're probably 80% of the way there. There's some of things that take you out of that, right? If you can't smell something, if you can't touch something, if you hit a wall and you can't move any further, right? Some of those things take you out of that immersive experience. But all of these things are being solved for. So like my money's on probably 10 years, but I know people push and say, well, it could be 20, technology takes time. I think we're closer than we think because our brains are pathetically easy to fool.
Thank you very much, Paul the Prophet. Please do scan Paul's QR code. Any further questions that you do have, please reach out to Paul or any of our amazing speakers here today.